Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lasuk b'divrei Torah. Varev na Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha b'fi amcha beit Yisrael v'niyeh anachnu v'tzeitzeinu v'tzeitzeim amcha beit Yisrael kulanu yodei shemecha v'lomdei Toratecha lishma Baruch atah Adonai l'mei Torah le'amu Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'achar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu Torato Baruch atah Adonai noteinu Torah.
Amen.
Right.
All right, guys, I must tell you something. To start the show a bit later than 8 o'clock was a dream. Could get some stuff.
Yeah, you've now set a precedent, so we have to do this every day now.
You're right. I wish. No, I don't wish. It's good to get back to work. All right. So I thought Friday's diagnostics was very important. Because it just Thursdays, yeah. Because it just let me know where we're holding. And obviously we started on 5A4, where this Mishnah started. Now, how many of you guys did Chazorah?
I did.
I went through it.
But I did it on Friday, so we'll have to see how much I remember.
Okay. Now, did it add clarity for any of you guys or not really?
No. For me, I'm still more confused.
No, it adds more clarity, but just the way I suppose you have to teach it, and this is no criticism. It's quite by laying sort of the high level, sort of picture. That in itself is quite complex, But
sure.
You're getting it as you put more examples down on the table. And we compare different combinations of things, it becomes a hell of a lot clearer.
Yeah, for me, I'm just finding it difficult. I mean, I understand the basics of it, but I find it hard to bring it into with the cases. I just, that fine tuning is what I need of how to bring it from what I know into proving the case logically and easily.
Okay, so what's going to, Kevin, did you do it right? Kev?
We can't hear you, Kevin, for some reason.
No? Can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yeah.
I also like Arthur. I didn't do going through all the video, all the videos. I tried to go through most of it, and it was just difficult to type based on your questions on Thursday, or trying to put the case forward and trying to convict, and that's.
Right, so
a process that you have to develop in Gomorrah.
Michael, we can do it again properly.
I read the PDF file, Schottenstein. Okay, that's how you pronounce it. And I promise you, you're doing you're doing a good job at trying to decipher all of that. And giving, by giving the examples and making all the comparisons. So I feel I understand a lot more. I sometimes think that, you mustn't use. Sometimes you use like the word common, the common characteristics and the unique features. Sometimes but just be careful when you use. Sometimes I think when you mean unique, when you say common, you really mean unique, or I don't know. Sometimes just make sure that we get the.
It's possible in the recording I could have made said the wrong word. That's very possible.
So we must get the terminology. Stop with the terminology. But sometimes you say the wrong word, and I must say that once. Or I think it happened once. It throws it out. But I must. We have the responsibility of stopping you if something doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Let me just give my take on it. I did Chazorah on Friday. I went through the PDF and I went through both videos.
Yes.
And it was very clear to me after doing that. How much I remember today, that's another story. But after doing it, I thought it was very well explained. I didn't find that there was any ambiguity, but maybe I'm not smart enough to pick it up. But for me, it was very, very clear, the whole thing.
Look, Mark, I might have used the wrong word once or whatever. That's enough to confuse. So if that was the case, at the time, say, do you mean common or do you mean unique?
Yes.
Because what happens
Yeah,
is
I might have missed it. But I thought it was
sometimes
there.
I've got three people asking different questions, and I'm answering one as being unique, and the other one is talking about a common. And it just pointed out if it's not clear, because it's possible I might have made a mistake. So let's take it from the top. Now that you've done Chazorah, and let's create a very, very simple explanation on all of these. Okay? So just in a simple way, when the Mishnah starts off, it immediately says the ox is not like the mave, and the mave is not like the ox. The ox and the mave are living things, are not like the fire, which is not living. And the ox, the mave, and the fire, which tends to go forth and damage, is not like the pit that is stationary. That's pretty clear. So what it's trying to do now is discern between the unique features of all of them and the common characteristics of many of them. Now, they're not all going to have common characteristics if you pair all of them together. But the contrast between the common characteristics is enough to prove evidence for the third. So I'm going to give you some examples. The Gemara in the sixth daf that we're going to cover is going to bring 4 classic examples. What we're bringing now is just how to tie 2 or 3 of them together to convict on maybe the third or the fourth. The reason why I'm saying is sometimes you need a third in terms of common characteristics is because even, for example, when we've got logic, where we say we bring a case of ox and mave to prove fire, the reason why it won't stick is because in your defense, you could turn around and say, well, maybe the common characteristics, the fact that both come from living entities. And when we say living entities, ox is obviously a breathing creature. So whether we say it's from the shane, from the tooth of that creature, or we say it's a spit from mave, meaning man, according to Rav, this is the anatomy or the force of that which is living. And I might come to you and say, well, if we use ox and mave, it can prove culpability for fire. And generally we can. But the only problem is with ox and mave is they've got another characteristic in common, which means that they are living entities. So you might turn around in the court case and say, look, this is the commonality between both those features. And therefore, since fire is not living and it does not have the ability to have intelligence behind its damage in any way, whether it's premeditated or not, you can't make fire culpable because the common characteristic could be enough to convict. And that could be the feature which causes us to assume liability. So in the case of fire, for example, we have to actually have something that's not living. So when we bring the example of the pit as almost the glue factor for that and any other binding activity for the common characteristics, what we're saying is that pit is non-living. So if you mix that with ox or mave, either one of those, you can convict for fire. If you have pit, it's the fact of it, it's prone to damage from inception and it's stationary. So if you have to pay from the fact that it's stationary damage, how much more so when something goes forward to damage?
Okay. Can I stop you? Dave's going to stop you. Sorry, because
yes.
It's selfish, but it'll get right to my head. Sometimes when you, so I understand much more about the different characteristics and the different, features of each particular thing, much better. But what you just said now confused me a little bit because I sometimes don't understand the rule. So you're saying that
I'm going to unpack it now. I'll unpack that rule now, but I just wanted to explain to the rule. So let me give you a classic example here. And I'm not coming to bring the Gemara. I'm just talking in Damon language. There's something known as Sad HaShaveh. And Sad HaShaveh is the common characteristic. Okay? So basically, on a very broad level, the common characteristics is that, in theory, anything that causes damage, you have an obligation to pay for. That was the first opinion of the Gemara. And then Rava said that in fact is not the case, that you do need more than one. Zavid said it actually in the name of Rava. And the reason being is because of the unique features. In other words, the unique feature is enough to add confusion. In other words, each unique feature is dissimilar enough to the other damager to make us question whether or not you can implicate for damage. When you take more than one damager and you take two damagers and perhaps place it against the third damager, in that case, you've got enough common features that if the common feature presents itself in the third, you probably can convict. Not in every case, but you probably can convict. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I wasn't getting confused before with the unique and common. I'm saying the difficulty is for every common characteristics that you say, you're obligated because of this, because they share it. You could say, but that is unique, and maybe that's why maybe that's why it's incumbent upon you to pay. It's only when we have more than one common characteristic that if we prove in the third or the fourth damager that it has that in common, that we can convict on that basis. So let's unpack it exactly with what you said.
Okay, before you do that, can I just interrupt you? Sorry, it is important.
Sure.
But I don't understand.
Yes.
I understand the commonality and the uniqueness of each one. I've been through it. What I don't understand is when it goes to court, why do we have to use 2 or 3? Why can't we just use fire? Fire deals with fire. Pit
I'll
deals
tell you
with
what,
pit.
it's a great question.
Why are we bringing in other? Why do we have to prove it in a different way?
I heard your question. It's a great question. The reason being is that not every case is going to be mentioned in the Mishnah. You've got 4 cases in the Mishnah. You have got 13 cases with Rav Ashayim. You've got 24 cases if you take Rav Kiesler, plus 2 others, which make 26. Somebody's phone's beeping.
Yeah, sorry.
So in total, you've got 26, and you've got more and more and more. So there has to be an example of application of law, because the whole point of law is that you're not going to get every case is unique. The whole point of law is you take principles, and then you apply them to new situations or new technologies, etc., or new inventions. And that is why you need to know the basis of how to put a case together, because there are going to be cases where it's not fire, and we've got to know if a person's culpable or not. Or you have a case where it kind of resembles fire and kind of resembles pit. There's going to be 4 cases that are going to go forward in the 6th up that looks like a combination of things, and we don't quite know what to do. Let me give you an example. There are exemption features in each of these common damages, exemption features. So, for example, we look at Shane and Regal. They're exempt in the public domain, okay? Because it says that does damage in the field of another. So if, for example, another damager we don't know of resembles Shane or it resembles Regal, we might say that, well, you can't make that person culpable in a public domain, because does it have the resemblance in terms of an exemption feature, or does it resemble maybe the leniency or the exemption feature of Keren, where it's tam instead of muad? So we need to know how to apply the law also in terms of its, not only its stringency, but its leniencies. Do you see what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah, no. I've got it. Got it. Well explained. Thank you.
So if I ever do make a mistake, because after 2 hours of sleep, I can say common instead of unique, or especially if questions are coming and I'm thinking of something else, please stop me at the time, because it's not perfect. I could make a mistake. Now, let me just use 1 or 2 examples and unpack it. Okay. I'm taking a case now where we take ox and marve together to serve as the case for fire. This is classically what's brought in the Schottenstein, for example, right? Now, I'm going to give you the counter argument for fire now, but I just want you to look at the common characteristic. So if you take a look at the classical example, ox can mean one of 2 things. Let's just take what ox could mean. According to Rav, what is it, guys? It's an umbrella term for what? According to Rav.
What? It's goring.
No, according to Rav, ox
it's regal. Rav says it's reg.
No, Rav says...
What's the question again? Sorry, let me just see if I get it right.
According to Rav, what is... ox is an umbrella term that covers what?
All 3. Keren, regal, and Shane.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question correctly. My apologies.
No problem. So it's a blanket term, or I prefer the term umbrella term, which means that it's got all of them under it in equal measure, Keren, Regal, and Shane. That's great. That's according to Rav. Now, according to Shmuel, what do we say ox is? Somebody
else can answer, otherwise I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Don't all jump in at once.
Okay, no one's jumping in. So according to Shmuel, ox includes ox is Keren and he leaves out Regal and Shane.
No, guys, you need to do Chazorah. All right, let me unpack this again.
No, it's Mavi as well. Sorry, it's Mavi as well.
Wait, once you pick the box, you've picked the box. So
no, I'm adding to it.
No, okay, but in the wrong direction. Just brakes, handbrake.
All right.
Okay, just hang on. So what I'm saying is, according to Shmuel, okay, according to Shmuel, we know Mavi is Shane. So then, for the category of ox, it can only leave Keren and Regal. Now, according to Rav Yehuda's opinion on Shmuel, it is Keren, and according to Rava's opinion on Shmuel, we say it's Regal. And the reason why we generally go with Regal is as follows, is because, remember, both Keren and Regal are hinted to in one word, if it's the damager, he shall damage. Remember that whole phrase, or whatever the case may be. And we say, well, why a hint? It doesn't make sense that you should head for it. And it makes sense when you turn around, because they're both Rava quoting Shmuel and Yehuda quoting Shmuel uses that phrase, but it makes more sense in Rava's case. Not that Rav Yehuda doesn't make sense. We don't have some of the brises to explain Rav Yehuda's thinking. It's not that he doesn't make sense, it's that we don't have the brises. So this is the case. Rava says it's Regal. Why? And it says it's Regal because Regal, Shane, Pit, Man, and Fire are moored from the outset. Keren is the only one that's not moored from the outset. So therefore, it wasn't mentioned explicitly. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's why we go according to Rava.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? We're saying it's more logical. Why? We're saying that, why don't you mention it explicitly like the rest? We say we can't mention it explicitly like the rest because the biblical view of Shmuel of ox, according to Rav, is Regal, because that's you moored from the beginning. Just like every other damage. Keren is an exceptional rule. That's why it's hinted at. And that makes sense to us because we don't have the branches of Rav Yehuda. So it's not, does that make sense? So we're going to use all these arguments of ox and all three classic cases with Mave to prove the common damage why you're obligated for fire. So I'm going to unpack this. But you can't unpack this if you don't know the difference between Rav and Shmuel.
Okay.
And the same thing with regard to Rav and Shmuel on pit. They've got a difference of law in terms of ownerless and owned damage with regards to a pit. And it's only when you keep that in mind that you can do that. That's why the fifth daf is a test on all four. And by the time you get to the sixth daf, it's got 4 cases of common characteristics, where basically 2 of them are used in concert to prove the common damage to obligate for the third. And then we're also going to learn about exemptions. In other words, if it's a common factor, then do we apply the exemptions when it's used a combination of 2? Do we apply, for example, both the exemptions or only of the one predominant one? Or are there neither exemptions? It's going to get complicated. Wait, guys, this is simple.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So let's unpack this. Any questions before we go on?
Yeah, can you just repeat Shmuel again?
I thought you were going to make me repeat everything. I was going to start.
I just want to understand Shmuel again. Just on the Keren part. I'm just sorry. It's been a while since we did it, and I'm slightly confused. Just go through it again.
Fine. We know that Shane is Mave according to Shmuel, right?
So
we know
it still
that
stays under Mave. It doesn't move over to
no.
It's under Mave.
It's
Mave is Shane. Yeah,
according to Shmuel, Shane is under Mave. Okay, and the rules of Shane, where the Tordos are the same as the Avot, is exactly the same according to Shmuel, and it's under the case of Mave because it's a living thing. It's the anatomy of a living creature. Fine. So then the question is posed, what happens to Keren and Regal? And we say, well, what there is Shmuel referring to? Is he referring to ox being Keren, or is he referring to ox being Regal? We don't know. So then Yehuda brings the opinion that Shmuel is talking about Keren. And then Rava is talking about the fact that Shmuel is bringing Regel. That's for the case of the ox. And we go with Regel because of the brasses we have available, based on the fact that Regel, Shane, Pitman, and Fire, or Muad to begin with. And they've
Got it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay. Michael, Kevin, Arthur, do you understand what I'm saying so far?
I'm grasping it slowly. Still complicated for my little head, but I'm getting around it.
Dan. So just say who's all Muad from the beginning, except Regel.
No. Except Keren. If you read the Schottenstein,
okay, got it.
If you read the Schottenstein, it says on Daf 5 B1. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if that's the case, let's just unpack this as follows. So let's just say that ox refers here to Keren. Let's take the case of Rav. Let's keep it simple with Rav. Okay? We're not going to mix up Rav and Shmuel for now. You guys are confused enough as it is. So let's go according to Rav. And Rav says, ox is what, guys? Keren, right?
Keren, yeah.
Fine. And then, therefore, ox, what is Marve, according to Rav? Man, exactly, man. So I want to respond to the following. That you might say that Keren cannot serve as a source for liability for fire because ox possesses a unique feature that fire doesn't. What is the unique feature of Keren, guys?
Tam and Muad.
That's also no. That's the leniency. What is the feature? What is the unique feature? Marco, this is what you might have got confused at. What?
Yes, intentional.
Intent to damage. Yes, intent to damage or kill.
Yeah.
So fine. So we're not looking at the leniency here of Tam and Muad. You're right, Gav.
Yeah.
It is true. But what we're looking at here is we need a source of liability, not of leniency. We're not looking to exempt the case. We're looking to convict. So therefore, the unique feature is what? It's intent to damage. And what we said the other day...
Okay, so when you say unique, you mean common feature. You actually need common.
No, I don't, Marco. You're missing it. Okay, let me unpack it like...
Okay.
No. Hang on. Just give me one sec. I'm saying everything has got a unique feature. We're going to run through it for 2 minutes. This will help. This will help you immensely.
Yeah.
The unique feature of Keren is intent to damage.
Yeah.
The unique feature of Shane is physical gratification. The unique feature of Regel is the animal's natural damage when moving. Okay, that's unique. Let's take Pit. Pit, the unique damage of Pit is what? That it is stationary and prone to damage from inception. Okay. And then let's take fire. It needs the force of another in order to function, such as wind.
Right.
Now, these are the unique features. It's not the common features at all. Let's study the exemption of each of them. Okay, let's go through the exemption, guys. Keren, the exemption is Tam or Muad. It's also as Tam. Shane, let's look at the exemption of Shane. If you look at Shane, what? No, guys, Shane.
There is no exemption in Shane.
There is. Guys, just if you do this, you will know that Shane and Regel, I even mentioned it in the beginning of the show.
Regel is public domain.
Just Shane. Can you wait a second? Shane and Regel are both part of one pasuk. There's a Gezerah Shava, and it's part of one pasuk, which says you are exempt in the public domain, both Shane and Regel.
Yeah.
Both of them. Okay. Yeah. So both of them have that feature. Now, what is the exemption of Pit?
Vessels.
Okay, vessels that are, in other words, if the donkey gets damaged or killed in it and carrying vessels, you don't pay for the broken vessels. Okay? And in terms of according to Rav Yehuda, it doesn't come to include culpability for man dying in the pit. You pay damages, you don't pay for death, because man should be more awake as opposed to an animal that's led in a pit. That's according to Rav Yehuda. And if we look at fire, what is the exemption of fire?
Hidden objects.
Excellent. So if you've got a haystack and that catches a light and there's a big hustle in it, you're not paying for that. Rav Yehuda comes to include damage for fire without that exemption. He said it doesn't count. And he said that, in fact, it even comes to include a field that had been plowed that gets scorched again, or the stones that get licked with fire. He comes to be more stringent. But generally, the rabbis say that fire, things that are hidden in it, and also there's an exemption for, which we're going to touch on for shame, that if an animal eats objects that are not fitting for it, you might not have to pay, according to the opinion of many of the Rabbonim. In other words, if it's not fit for consumption, you would never think that an animal would start to eat glass or something like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's an opinion there. So right, now we see the exemption features of all of them. Gavin, you now see the unique features of all of them. And now we're going to look at the common features of all of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you guys have all done well. Gav, listen, your insights are 99% straight on, but if I'm trying to say something and you keep interrupting me, it's tough, right?
Yeah, no, sorry. No, I'm just excitable today, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just I'm trying. No, it's not a problem.
I'm just feeling good. I don't always feel like
I would rather you feel excitable than bored. So there's no issue. All right. So let's take a case according to Rav. Let's take a case of ox being Keren. You want to convict me just on Keren alone. I would turn around to you and say, well, Keren intends to do damage or to kill. I accidentally left on a fire, and it not only damaged your house, but it damaged part of mine. And therefore, why would I intentionally do that? Because even if I don't like you, why would I damage myself? So you can't convict, because you could think that the case of conviction is when the animal intends to damage.
Okay.
So one damage is not enough to convict on a separate damager. You would need to take two things. So if we take, for example, Keren and Maveh being man, this is both the case of ox according to Rav being Keren and Maveh being man according to Rav. We're not mixing up Rav and Shmuel here. We're saying that because man damages when he sleeps and he's muad, fully muad and warned beforehand, and he has to pay full damages, intent to damage is not a reason to create liability. So therefore, because Keren intends to do damage, that's not a reason that fire can use it to get out of it as an excuse. Because when you mention that and Maveh, but we convict on a case where man doesn't intend to do damage. Okay, so if you take the common feature of both of them, I could say the common feature is it does damage, whether it intends to or not. And therefore, that common feature, does the fire do damage? Yes. And on those two features, you would be more likely to convict on fire. Are you with me, guys? Because your reason for defense doesn't hold water. What would be your defense for man? The defense would be as follows. For man that damages man, you have 4 additional payments. You've got pain, you've got healing, you've got convalescence and humiliation. And this doesn't apply to fire. So I would think it's those unique features that make you obligable, in addition to the nezek, the actual damage, where it's so the reality is I could say fire doesn't resemble that at all. So without Keren, I can't prove in the case of man that it would be enough to convict you on fire, because you might also say with man, well, that's directly caused by man. This fire got out of control. It has nothing to do with him. It's his property. It's his creation. And I could say Keren is not man itself. It's the animal that went rogue. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you have 2 different damages, you can defend against fire much easier. And look at the common feature. Am I making any sense to you guys?
Yeah.
In terms of culpability. Fine. So I think let's end on that note. We can discuss the case of what happens according to Shmuel next time. if ox resembles regel and ox resembles Shane, or ox resembles Keren and ox resembles Shane, according to either Rav Yehuda's opinion of Shmuel and Rava's opinion of Shmuel. But now you're getting to see that the special feature not present in fire is not the reason to exonerate for fire, providing that they both can cancel each other out. Because the common feature cancels out the unique feature, of which you can say, I'm not obligated to pay because my damage doesn't resemble that. That's what you're doing. So, guys, we're still going to hit in the 6 after 4 examples. We're still unpacking daf number 5. And if I make any mistake, and I'm probably going to make many, just correct me, Michael, at the time. I might use the wrong word for something. I might.
Probably not. I'm probably just not getting it at the time. So, yeah. But in any case, look, I think it's great that we really, tackling it and testing it and battling with it, because I think that's part of really what makes it, rewarding in the end. And I must say that, I get a lot from the recordings afterwards, because sometimes you're thinking a hell of a lot while you're talking.
Yes.
And you get better after it. So the recordings are great. So
Arthur and I said that together. Arthur said to me, sometimes he's thinking about what I said, I'm already on to the next thing. And it kind of makes it difficult compared to reading.
I must admit, James, earlier when I went through the daf on the video, there were lots of things I missed that I never caught that day because maybe there was something going on in the house or whatever, and you're not focusing, or you're busy thinking about what you just said, and then when I watched the recording, I went, that's what he's saying. So the first time, it's a different involvement when you're watching somebody to actually when you're listening to the recording.
But it also says, to every shur that I've ever been to, or every Gemara shur I've ever been to, every teacher, it says, do chazorah. Because chazorah, besides the fact that because sometimes I normally understand Damon first time round, but then you ask me 2 days later what he said, and we have the next shur, I've kind of forgotten half of it. So when you do chazorah, right, it helps to digest it properly and embed it in your brain. And also, like you say, like you said, sometimes you miss something, you're a little bit distracted. So it helps for that. So chazorah is very, very good to do. And a lot of us don't do it. I did it for this thing because Damon asked us to do it, but I haven't really been doing it regularly. And I'm going to start listening to the video once you put it up.
Guys, I don't want to add more pressure to your day. This is just one thing I wanted to let you know.
But it does help.
Of the shir, you can do what you can do, but what's nice is every couple of daf, just to do a bit of testing and prodding and see how you guys are doing. I thought this was the right daf to do it on. It's not that the daf said test the students. It's just I had an instinct by going through this to see what you know up until now. So it was instinctual. I don't want to create problems for you. Pardon?
No, it's good. It's challenging. It's enjoyable, and one has to do revision, otherwise it's going to get lost. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, you're going to get lost, and you're going to forget, and you might